You are secretly addicted to your own suffering. Every grudge you hold is a slow, invisible suicide, and the most terrifying part, you are willingly drinking the poison. Watch until the end, because the true villain destroying your life isn't who you think it is. Have you ever realized that you are willingly swallowing a deadly poison every single day, yet somehow you have convinced yourself that someone else is forcing it down your throat? Look back at the darkest moments of your life, the shattered relationships, the irreversible mistakes, the words spoken in blind fury that can never be taken back. What if I told you that the invisible hand pushing you toward the edge was not your cruel boss, not your unfaithful partner, and certainly not the chaotic, unfair world around you? The terrifying, unspoken truth is that you have been holding the weapon all along, actively choosing to bleed out while blaming the mirrors around you. Myth. Eryndor welcomes you to a journey of confronting the darkest, most uncomfortable corners of our own minds. If you are ready to stop being a victim to your own impulses and finally reclaim the steering wheel of your life, please hit the subscribe button below. Your support gives us the strength to continue creating videos that shatter illusions and awaken the mind. Now close your eyes and step into a morning you know all too well. You wake up, rush through the motions, and accidentally spill scalding coffee down your pristine white shirt. You scramble to change, sprint out the door, and instantly hit a suffocating wall of traffic. Out of nowhere, a reckless driver violently swerves into your lane without a signal. A primal heat explodes in your chest. Blood rushes to your head, your vision blurs with pure rage. You slam your hands onto the horn and scream obscenities into the void. By the time you reach the office, 10 minutes late, your boss throws a casual, sharp comment about your lack of professionalism. In that exact moment, the anger morphs into a ticking time bomb. You carry this radioactive core within you for the rest of the day. You snap at your colleagues, you radiate bitterness, and finally, when you walk through the door of your home, you unleash all that stored venom onto the people who love you the most over a meaningless, trivial mistake. The entire day is reduced to ashes. But pause. Take a hard, honest look at the wreckage. Who truly burned that day to the ground? Was it the careless driver? Was it the demanding boss? Or was it you? We live in an era where hypersensitivity and playing the victim have become our default survival instincts. We casually throw around phrases like, "he made me lose my mind," or "her behavior pushed me over the edge," or "the situation forced me to act that way." By using this exact language, we effortlessly strip ourselves of all responsibility. We hand over the master key of our sanity to strangers and circumstances. But neuroanatomy reveals a truth that is both miraculous and utterly ruthless. Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, a renowned brain scientist, uncovered a profound biological phenomenon known as the 90-second rule. When you encounter a trigger, a harsh insult, or an act of sheer injustice, your amygdala instantly sounds a primal alarm in your brain. Your adrenal glands flood your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart pounds violently to pump blood to your muscles. Your breathing turns shallow and your focus narrows entirely onto the threat. This is the ancient fight or flight response, a brilliant biological mechanism designed to keep you alive in the wild. But here is the devastating reality. This entire chemical process, from the moment the stress hormones are unleashed to the second they are completely flushed out of your bloodstream, lasts exactly 90 seconds, 1 minute and 30 seconds. That is the absolute maximum time your physical body requires to process a primal emotional reaction. So I must ask you, why are you still vibrating with rage at minute 2? Why are you still seething 10 minutes later, or agonizing over the event for days on end, The answer lies hidden in your prefrontal cortex. Any anger that survives beyond that initial 90-second window is no longer a physiological accident. It is an active, deliberate choice. You are intentionally rewinding the tape of your trauma. You are replaying the insult in your mind, drafting imaginary retaliations, and chewing on the toxic cud of your own resentment. You are voluntarily injecting synthetic cortisol back into your own veins through the sheer power of your obsessive thoughts. After 90 seconds, anger ceases to be a biological reflex. It becomes a self-inflicted wound. This brings us to the most dangerous lie humanity has ever swallowed, the myth of the push button. How often have you heard someone say, "They know exactly which buttons to push to make me explode"? This mindset is a fatal flaw. It reduces you to a mindless vending machine, suggesting that anyone can walk up, press a sequence on a remote control, and watch your dignity fall out. You strip yourself of your own humanity. The profound truth is that no one has the supernatural ability to reach inside your brain and turn a valve to release anger. The people who infuriate you do not create your rage. They merely act as mirrors, reflecting the deep-seated insecurities, the unhealed wounds, and the fragile expectations that were already rotting inside you long before they arrived. If a stranger walks past you and says your hair is neon green when it is clearly black, you would simply laugh at the absurdity. There is no anger because there is no internal doubt. But if they mock your competence, and deep down you secretly fear you are not good enough, the fire consumes you. Anger is always an echo of your internal landscape, never the fault of the person holding the mirror. Recognizing this brutal illusion is the very first step toward true liberation. The moment you stop believing your emotions are controlled by the outside world, you reach out and fiercely snatch back the remote control of your own existence. Snatching back that remote control, however, requires us to face an even more terrifying question. If staying angry is a deliberate choice, why do we so eagerly choose to swallow the poison? The answer is buried deep within the architecture of our ego, a fragile construct that would rather feel righteous than be at peace. There is an undeniable, intoxicating rush that comes with being wronged. When someone insults you, betrays you, or cuts you off in traffic, a powerful narrative instantly crystallizes in your mind. You are the innocent martyr, and they are the absolute villain. This dynamic is seductive because it offers a profound sense of moral superiority. In a world where we often feel utterly powerless over our finances, our aging bodies, and the unpredictable nature of the future, holding onto a grudge gives us a dark, twisted illusion of control. We construct an invisible courtroom in our heads where we are simultaneously the star witness, the prosecutor, and the supreme judge. We replay the offense obsessively because every time we do, we win the argument. We punish the phantom of the person who hurt us, reveling in the intoxicating neurochemicals of righteous indignation. But this addiction to victimhood comes at a devastating cost to our own growth. To be a victim is to be absolved of all responsibility for your own misery. If your unhappiness is entirely the fault of your cruel partner, your unappreciative children, or an unfair society, then you are conveniently excused from the heavy, terrifying labor of changing your own life. It is far easier to point a trembling finger at the world than it is to look in the mirror and dismantle your own toxic behaviors. I have seen people build their entire identities around their wounds. They wear their traumas like medals of honor, introducing themselves to new friends and lovers through the lens of how terribly they have been treated in the past. Their pain becomes their personality. If you strip away their anger, you are left with a terrifying void, leaving them to ask, "Who am I if I am not the person who was betrayed?" The ego is terrified of this emptiness. It would rather wrap itself in a warm blanket of familiar misery than step naked and vulnerable into the unknown territory of healing. When we clutch our grievances to our chests, we are using them as a shield. We subconsciously believe that if we stay angry enough, if we stay hypervigilant and resentful, we will never be caught off guard and hurt again. We mistake our emotional armor for safety, but armor does not just keep the weapons out. It traps the wearer inside. It becomes heavy, rusting with time, restricting your movements until you can no longer embrace the people who genuinely love you. You become a prisoner of the very walls you built to protect yourself. To break free from this addiction, we must engage in a brutal level of self-honesty. We must be willing to admit that we enjoy the bitter taste of our own resentment. We must acknowledge that playing the victim while comfortable is the ultimate surrender of our personal power. If you define your life by what has been done to you, you will never discover what you are capable of doing for yourself. You have to ask yourself whether you want to spend the precious, limited decades of your existence being right or being free. The ego demands justice, retribution, and endless apologies that will likely never arrive, but the soul simply desires peace. When you finally recognize that your righteous anger is not a weapon against your enemies, but a chain binding you to them, the illusion shatters. You realize that the only way to truly win the battle against the past is to drop the sword altogether and walk off the battlefield. Yet this armor we forge from our grievances is not made of iron but of lead, slowly poisoning the very host it was designed to protect. There is a profound tragedy in the way we allow unresolved anger to silently hollow us out from the inside. We often imagine resentment as a loud, violent storm, but in reality it is more like a subtle, relentless leak in the foundation of a house. Over time it rots, the wood weakens the structure, and invites decay into every hidden corner of our lives. When you hold on to a grudge, you are essentially allowing the person who wronged you to live rent-free in your mind. Think about the sheer absurdity of this. You despise this person. You wish they had never crossed your path. And yet you voluntarily bring their ghost into your bedroom when you are trying to sleep. You invite them to sit next to you at the dinner table while you are eating with your family. You carry their heavy, suffocating presence into your quietest moments of solitude. The physical person may be miles away, completely oblivious to your suffering, sleeping soundly, or enjoying their life, while you are pacing the floors at 3 a.m., your heart racing, your stomach tied in knots, burning your own vital energy to keep their memory alive. This prolonged state of internal warfare exacts a terrifying biological toll. You are forcing your nervous system to live in a perpetual state of emergency. Chronic anger keeps cortisol coursing through your veins long after the 90-second biological window has closed. This invisible acid slowly corrodes your immune system, raises your blood pressure, and hardens the arteries of your heart. But the physical decay is only a fraction of the destruction. The spiritual and emotional toll is far more devastating. Resentment acts as a dark filter over your eyes, distorting everything you see. It kills your capacity for joy because a heart that is clenched tight in anger simply does not have the space to expand into gratitude. I want you to reflect on the innocent casualties of your stored venom. How many times have you been physically present with someone you love but emotionally completely vacant because your mind was thousands of miles away, arguing with a phantom from your past? You snap at your children, you pull away from your spouse, and you isolate yourself from friends because the sheer exhaustion of carrying your grudges leaves you with no energy for love. The resentment you harbor against one person inevitably bleeds onto everyone else. You become cynical. You begin to expect betrayal from everyone you meet, projecting the face of your abuser onto the faces of innocent strangers. You stop taking risks, you stop opening your heart, and you slowly shrink your world until it is small enough to control. This is the ultimate victory of the person who hurt you. They only had to harm you once, but by holding on to the resentment, you have taken over their job, harming yourself 1,000 times over in their name. You are committing a slow, invisible suicide. Time is the only currency we possess that we can never earn back. Every minute you spend ruminating on past injustices is a minute stolen from your own future. It is a sunset you did not truly see, a laugh you did not truly feel, a moment of profound peace that slipped through your fingers while you were busy clutching a burning coal. The realization that you are wasting the finite, unrepeatable hours of your life punishing yourself for someone else's mistake is a deeply sobering awakening. It strips away the romanticism of holding a grudge and exposes it for what it truly is, a tragic, senseless squandering of your own life force. To evict these ghosts and reclaim our inner sanctuary, we must master the art of the sacred pause, the quiet space where our true power lies. The legendary psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl once wrote a profound truth that holds the key to human liberation. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Most of us live our entire lives completely blind to this space. We operate on a hair-trigger loop of action and reaction. Someone insults us and we instantly fire back. We feel the primal surge of the 90-second chemical flush, and we immediately allow it to dictate our words, our actions, and our reality. We are passengers trapped in a runaway vehicle. But what happens if just for a moment you refuse to press the accelerator? This is the visceral, gritty practice of true mindfulness. It is not about sitting on a cushion and pretending to be completely devoid of negative emotion. That is an aesthetic, a spiritual bypass. True awareness is about standing firmly in the roaring fire of your own triggers and having the immense courage to do absolutely nothing. Imagine that moment of blinding rage again. The heat rises in your chest, your jaw clenches, the adrenaline screams at you to attack, to defend, to destroy. But instead of opening your mouth, you simply observe the sensation. You take a breath, and you step back inside your own mind, watching the anger wash over you like a dark, violent wave crashing against a rock. You begin to separate your identity from the emotion. You realize with profound clarity the difference between "I am angry" and "I am experiencing the physical sensation of anger." This subtle shift in language is the alchemy of awareness. When you say, "I am angry," you are fusing your entire sense of self with a temporary volatile chemical reaction. You become the fire. But when you observe it, you become the vast, unshakable sky in which the storm is passing. You give the neurochemicals the 90 seconds they need to burn out. You sit with the intense, agonizing discomfort of the urge to retaliate, and you breathe through it. You let your ego scream and thrash and demand a reaction, but you do not obey, you simply watch. In that sacred pause, the magic happens. The biological flush completes its cycle, the fog of adrenaline begins to clear, and your prefrontal cortex comes back online. The illusion of the push button dissolves because you have just proven to yourself that no matter how intensely a situation provokes you, you retain the ultimate sovereignty over your actions. You are no longer a puppet pulled by the strings of external circumstances. This practice requires an excruciating level of discipline at first. It feels unnatural. Every instinct will fight you, begging you to engage, to prove your point, to defend your honor. But every time you successfully ride the wave of a trigger, Without acting on it, you are literally rewiring the neural pathways of your brain. You are expanding that tiny fraction of a second between stimulus and response into a vast, quiet meadow of choice. You begin to realize that every trigger is not an attack, but a brilliantly disguised teacher. The people who irritate you the most become your greatest spiritual masters. They point directly to the places inside you that still need healing, the insecurities that still need soothing, and the attachments that still need releasing. You stop asking, "How dare they treat me this way?" and start asking, "Why does this specific action cause such a violent reaction within me?" Awareness turns the poison of anger into the medicine of self-discovery. When you finally learn to sit still in that fire without adding wood to the flames, you arrive at the most misunderstood concept of human healing: forgiveness. For generations, we have been taught a toxic, sacrificial version of forgiveness. We are told that to forgive someone means we must reconcile with them, that we must condone their horrific actions, or that we must invite them back into our lives. We view forgiveness as a gift we give to the person who broke us, a concession of our own pain to ease their guilt. Because of this profound misunderstanding, we refuse to do it. We withhold forgiveness as a form of punishment, believing that as long as we stay angry, they will somehow be held accountable. But the universe does not work that way. Your anger does not serve as justice. It only serves as your own prison warden. True forgiveness is not a moral high ground, nor is it a favor you do for anyone else. It is the most brilliantly selfish act a human being can commit. Forgiveness is simply the absolute refusal to suffer over the past any longer. It is looking at the terrible things that happened to you, acknowledging the deep, unfair wounds they caused, and then consciously deciding that you will not sacrifice your future on the altar of those events. You are taking a pair of heavy psychological scissors and cutting the invisible cord that binds you to your abuser. You do not forgive them because they deserve it. You forgive them because you desperately deserve peace. You are declaring emotional bankruptcy on the debt they owe you. You are saying, "What you took from me was invaluable, and you can never repay it. But I am no longer going to spend my life waiting outside your door to collect." Imagine the sheer lightness of that release. Imagine walking through the world no longer weighed down by a heavy backpack filled with the rocks of past betrayals, perceived slights, and ancient arguments. This is the ultimate liberation. It is the moment you reclaim every fragmented piece of your energy that you had scattered across your timeline, leaving it in the hands of people who never knew how to hold it. You draw all that vital force back into the present moment. You realize that the narrative of your life does not have to be a tragedy about what you endured, but an epic triumph about what you overcame. This journey from the biological trap of the 90-second rule to the transcendent freedom of forgiveness is not a destination you reach once and for all. It is a daily, sometimes hourly practice. There will still be days when you stumble, when the ego flares up, and when you momentarily grasp for the familiar poison of resentment. But the difference is that you are no longer blind. You know exactly what you are doing, and because you have tasted the pure, unadulterated air of emotional sovereignty, you will not stay in the dark for long. You will step out of the illusion of the push button forever. You will walk through life not as a fragile glass vase, terrified of being shattered by the chaotic world, but as a deep, endless ocean. A thrown rock may break the surface, causing a momentary ripple, a 90-second biological flush, but it will inevitably sink, swallowed by the vastness, leaving the surface perfectly beautifully still once again.